We could.
I checked on it.
Are you guys ready?
We're ready whenever you're ready.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order, this December 14th workshop. I know that Commissioner Piner and Commissioner Givens are on their way, and we'll get them to review everything from the video, the very beginning of this presentation. I'm actually very excited about this workshop. This is something that we've talked about for many, many years, about maybe possibly getting into smart meters and understanding how the system works collectively. And I know that there'll be an opportunity for us to ask some questions, and I'm certainly would open up the floor to anyone in the public that would like to ask any questions when it comes to the workshop mode here. But with that, please introduce yourselves. Ryan, are you going to take the lead introducing? Oh, you're here with us. You guys introduce yourselves and tell us what we're going to be seeing here today.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, I'm David Wilson, I'm with LB Water. This is Ed Denver with LB Water and Bud Basigli. Bud is our meter team manager. Ed is another technical sales consultant with emphasis on technical. He does a lot of all of our tech support. LB Water is a ESOP company based out of Pennsylvania. We have our office that services you guys in Ephrata, so we're not very far away. I work from my home in Havre de Grace, so I'm close by to provide service to the town of Elkton. We have been in business for 46 years now, so we're not new, and we are census reps for the state of Maryland, Delaware, and majority of Pennsylvania.
Very good.
So what we're going to present is our FlexNet system, which is a fixed-base network, meter reading network system with a lot of other functionality as well.
Good. Do you mind if I have some questions along the way?
It's an open forum, so if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to ask. I know we were here earlier in summer and gave you a basic overview of the system. Today we're going to be a little more specific to Elkton.
Okay.
Show you what we would need to provide coverage in your area, and more specific to what we would need to do here for you guys. So Ed's going to go ahead and lead the presentation, and like we said, if you have any questions, feel free.
Michelle, you want to dim it a little bit? Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, we apologize for the equipment malfunction. We had it all set up and looking good, and it looks like we blew a bulb. So
Okay, very good. All right.
Okay, so just sort of an agenda of what we're going to go over today. We're going to talk history of AMR and AMI. You'll hear these terms. They're not really interchangeable, but they are. AMR is automatic meter reading, sort of like handheld reading, radio reading, still using a device where you're walking or driving and getting reads and bringing them back into your utility billing system. An AMI system is an automated meter infrastructure where you're not going out physically to get reads anymore. There is a interface in between a utility billing system and the AMI system, and they're constantly communicating, and the meters are constantly communicating to the tower. But we'll get into more of the technical thing of it there. That move, I think?
No, it's chopped.
Oh, okay. Oh, you advanced, I'm sorry. Okay, so there's your basic differences between AMR and AMI. AMI, you don't go out and get reads from meters anymore. They're coming into you automatically. Currently, we provide hourly reads. They broadcast 4 times a day, and you get hourly reads from each location as far as water consumption is used. So that gives you the ability to automatically get your meter readings when you need it. As far as a final read per se, there is no sending somebody out to go get a final read for a move in or a move out. Whoever your utility billing clerks may be would have complete access to that system. They would hit that button and say, give me a reading for 206 Main Street. It may be 4 hours old, that's as old as it's gonna be, but let's face it, for 2 hours old, when you're gonna, or 4 hours old, maybe the last read that you have for it, but when you do an on-demand read, because we're a true two-way system, it's gonna go out and it's gonna pull that register, that water meter device, and it's gonna get your actual read at that time. For the most part, if you don't wanna do a two-way poll at that point, face it, 3 or 4 hours is enough, especially what billing increments you're using, as far as you're going. Now I'm assuming you guys read, what do they read in Dave, 1,000 gallon reads?
Their resolution is 100.
100, okay. So right now you bill in that kind of increment. You're billing your utility customers in 100 gallon increment. When you put new meters in and when you have a system like this, we get them down to the single gallon. We can get them down to the 1/10 of a gallon. It's a little too much, it's a little too granular for water, and it confuses most people when they see that decimal point. 1 gallon is currently enough, because then you'll see as we go through the software slides more often, you're able to call a customer. The utilities has the ability to be proactive instead of reactive when they're going in and looking at a customer's bills. You're able to, a homeowner calls and says, there's no way that I could have used this much water. You're able to tell them between 2 and 6 in the morning for the last 3 nights that your water did not shut off. So the plumber's lying to you and could not find a leak, the dog is flushing the toilet, or you have a leak going on somewhere in that. You can also, all your reports are programmable, so that you can say, every morning, I want to know whose water did not shut off in a 24-hour period, 18-hour period. That report will be there with name, address, customer, whatever information you want on there. So then your meter technicians can now be proactive, your utility people can, your customer service representatives can be proactive and say, maybe we want to let them know that they have a leak going on here. You have the ability, the utility will own all of that data, utility will have all that data. How you use it and manage it is completely up to the utility to do that. As far as a leak detection, we go back to 100 gallon versus 1,000 gallon. Currently you have a 100 gallon meter reader out there. You don't know when 30 gallons goes through it. You only know when 100 gallons goes through it because that's the way you're reading in that increment. So it doesn't do much good to tell somebody, well, you used 100 gallons between 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. Let's break it down more granular. That gives us the ability to locate leaks. Where we at? Fewer meter readers are required, but they become meter technicians. We're not trying to put meter readers out of the job. They become the meter technicians. They're troubleshooting. They're going out on a suspected leak call and performing customer service. There's things that happen in the field all the time. People get new siding on their house. People run over their meter pit with a lawnmower and take things. So all of these things are still going to need to be maintained. But it does give you the ability for now that person can go out and locate service line leaks or locate water main breaks or things like that. Most utilities, as far as a leak detection, it's usually the police department. So when that water's flowing at 2 in the morning down the street, that's your leak detection because the police officer calls and says, hey, I think we got a water main leak. Now you're able to find them. So let's see. Meter-related problems quicker and enhanced customer service. So you don't have to wait 3 months now. If you read quarterly, I'm assuming they read monthly.
Quarterly, right?
Quarterly.
Read quarterly, okay. So you're already behind the 8 ball now when you go out and get a read from somebody because you're reading that quarterly bill. It takes another 2-3 weeks to get those bills out and get it in. So in order to find a leak, you're already sort of a little bit behind the 8 ball at that point. Now you've got up to the minute results and you can do whatever you want with it. More of my customers that are moving into AMR and AMI have moved to monthly billing. It's an entirely utility-based decision. It's sometimes a political decision. But we find that it helps your delinquents go down. It helps your cash flow get improved. It obviously increases your mailing costs by a factor of 4 because you're going to be doing monthly instead of quarterly. But especially your fixed income people would much rather have a $35, $40 monthly bill than a $160 quarterly bill that you usually get. I get billed quarterly from the city of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I know I always forget about that one. And when that quarterly bill comes out, I go, oh, gotta do that one. It just helps budgeting more, but again, it gives you the ability to move to monthly rating. You don't have to. You can still do it that way. We have one customer in Brigantine, New Jersey, seasonal community right next to Atlantic City. They have a system like this. They bill once a year. They read twice a year and they bill once a year. So they're not utilizing the system like they can, but who am I to tell people how to spend their money? They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, if you look at converting from quarterly billing to monthly billing, I mean, you're actually doing your citizens, your residents a service, because, you know, I used to work for a utility, and we used to bill quarterly, and we'd bill for sewer, water, and garbage collection. So we would have people they'd be getting $600 or $700 sewer, water, and garbage bills a quarter. So we were able to basically break that down in thirds and help them even out their
Yeah, that's what you can see.
yeah, their payments. So, you know, it is really a customer service, and you would have the additional mailing charges, but you know, you're really going to be reducing costs as far as labor and, you know, getting the bills printed in and out. So it's really going to be a wash as far as you know, your additional mailing costs.
Well, to add to that too, if you have a customer who has a leak, and that leak occurs in the beginning of a quarter, by the time they get their bill, that's a huge bill. If it's a monthly reading, that bill is picked up a lot quicker, and that bill is not so drastic to that customer.
Yeah, the way you read meters now, if you read a meter today, you don't know what happens to that meter till the next time you read it. Whereas, you know, with this system where we're going to be able to give you hourly reads, you know, that we'll be able to program reports. You know, you're going to be able to get that stuff within a day. You're going to get those alarms and those meter fitters within a day. We actually have a customer in the Pittsburgh area where when they get the leak alarms come over, they're sending a letter to their customer within 3 days to let them know, hey, we think you may have a problem in your house. You know, and actually, you know, the customers will call and say, hey, you know, thanks, we really appreciate it. I had a toilet leaking, or no. I've had, over the holidays, I had additional family in, so that's what caused our usage to increase like that. So what was your question?
You just answered it.
Okay, thank you.
So from a conservation point of view, everybody likes to promote conservation, but water, we live in an area of the country where water's extremely cheap. We're getting into droughts now. I know that we have about 12 counties in Pennsylvania now that are currently in droughts. Water's cheap in this part of the country. So conservation is not at the forefront of our mind. And let's face it, the same amount of water is on the earth that was the day it was created or made or however it was, and we can't make any more. It's just the cost of treatment. So water utilities, municipal governments, are not in a business of making money on water, but you ought to be compensated for what it costs to get everything out there. So by having inefficiencies in your system, not being compensated for what you're actually doing, that's how the revenue generation is going to be increasing. Your meters are much more accurate. Typical studies show that about a 15-year-old meter is running at 78, 77%. That's all the water that it's catching going through it. And the low flow is always your thief. If a meter's 50 years old and it's flowing at 30 gallons a minute, you're catching most of that water that's going through there. Where you're missing is always on your low flow. And those can get down to 10, 12, 13%. And that's all the water they're catching. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the actual meters themselves. But increased revenue from AMR and AMI projects does afford a lot of municipal governments the funding to do other types of projects, whether they be water main rehabs, sewer main relinings, you know, whatever. Sewer here is county probably, so they don't. And I'm not sure if you do sewer as well. You do your sewer, okay. So when you increase most sewer utilities base their bill based on water usage, so you sort of get a double bang for your buck when you get a more accurate water meter. You're also getting that additional sewage bill and the water bill as well. So
Conversely, I mean, your sewer charges are based on your water consumption. So if you have meters in your system that are, let's say, 10 to 15% inaccurate, that means you're losing that amount of water on your sewer revenue side also. So,
And usually more, it's usually 4 or 5 times more the cost of sewage than the cost of water is. So if you're using consumption-based sewage, you're getting hit 2 times when you're not capturing the water going through. I'm sorry, any other question?
Well, I was getting back to that question. At what age did you state that normally the meters start to really dropping off?
The typical age of a positive displacement water meter is about 15 to 18 years. Now, there's a lot of factors that come into play with that. There's water quality. Obviously, a water meter with a 72-year-old woman that's living by herself is going to be less impactful than somebody who's got, 4 or 5 children living in the house as well. So there's all kinds of variables that go in there. But when you get a water meter, you get, when you buy a water meter on a positive displacement water meter, you get 1 year of new meter accuracy, and you get 5 years of rebuilt meter accuracy. And these are the AWWA standards, American Water Works Association. They develop all these standards for water meters, gate valves, fire hydrants, everything in a water system. On an iPro meter, which we'll talk about a little bit, you're getting 20 years of new meter accuracy guarantee. So that's going to measure every drop for 20 years, guaranteed with an unconditional warranty. You have a meter that's running slow, and it's our meter, you give it back to us, we're going to give you a brand new meter, which is then going to have another 20-year warranty attached to it.
Mark or Dan, can you answer for us? I know that our last major development was probably Patriot Glen, which finished up in 2004, maybe 2005. That's probably the biggest bulk of new meters that we got, and I know we've replaced meters over the years, but do you have an idea what percentage you think are over 15-year-old meters? Beth, do you have any idea?
No, but we're using iPearls.
Yeah, we've been filling iPearls.
We've been filling the iPearls, which are more, what these,
2011.
okay, very good.
and so typically when we work with a utility on a project like this, we usually recommend that you look at meters 5 years of age or older for your replacement. Because, this is a 20-year system, and both meters and the network infrastructure is a 20-year system. So, if you have meters out there that are, 20 years old, it doesn't make sense to not replace them during the project. But meters that are 5 years old and newer, because you have an investment in them, you may want to consider leaving them in the service and getting the useful life out of those.
Very good.
Did you say that water quality affects the meters too?
It can on a positive displacement meter, on a meter that has moving parts in it. The meters that you're currently using right now, the iPros, we have no moving parts in it. That's why we can afford that 20-year accuracy warranty. So there is no degradation over time.
Okay.
Your accuracy curve is linear from the day you put in to the day it goes out of service at 20 years. So water quality does not affect the non-moving parts meters.
Okay, thank you.
One more. Okay, that it? So here's what we get out of AMI, we get more data and we get it more frequently. That's your bang for your buck right here. And how this benefits you is customer service. I mean, most water utilities do not think of customer service.
We do.
Right, and that's great. I think people should. You're providing a service to them. Most of your customers call and they just sort of yelling at you saying, "There's no way I could have used this much water. You're gouging me for water. This meter's running fast." Meters do not run fast. In my 19 and a half years in water meters, I've seen one that was found to be fast. So your customers call and say, "I need a new meter." After that first bill of that new meter, they're generally calling and saying, "Any chance of getting that old meter back?" Because then they realize that you're capturing a little bit more data.
Or you have the employees of the utility want their meters replaced.
They want, yes.
Yeah.
They never want their meters replaced. Keep the 50-year-old meter in there. It's slow. So better planning capabilities, because now we have a 20-year water meter, so we have to get into a plan to do this. Most utilities just find themselves caught at some point where they haven't done anything with most, and that's not exclusive to water meters. That's water mains, that's sewer mains. Our infrastructure all over the country is in horrible state. We put it underground, we forget about it, we hope that it comes. Water meter is like a refrigerator. You pay for it, it just sits there and runs for 20 years and captures that data coming in there. Can be applied across all departments. We talked about sewer, we talked about distribution for leak detecting capabilities, not only from a water meter, but in your system itself from some data logging. Reduce labor and capital costs. Now, obviously, there's an upfront cost to acquire a system like this, but over time, you're going to reduce your labor costs for meter reading, for technical, for all kinds of things. And you have greater overall efficiency. Next slide. Basically the same thing that we did the last time. Why install it? We have daily reading. We have consumption monitoring at this point. There's a customer portal involved in the software that's available as well, so that your utility customers, meaning your utility customers, can set up their own portal much like they do. I'm not sure who the power company is, but like I do it on my power company. I go on, I see what I'm using versus what my neighbor's using. I can do alerts when I do that. A customer can set up an alert, tell me, you know, when I reach 10,000 gallons this month or this quarter, send me an email, send me a text, notify me some way. So that it again goes to the customer service. The reading accuracy, that's in the meter itself. Remote disconnect of water meters. The Ally water meter, you would not put everywhere, but I'm sure you have habitual offenders that you're going off and turning off every quarter until they pay their bill and then you're putting them back on again. So the ability to remotely turn on and off a water meter and also provide a trickle for the times of people that have to be able to take medication. Different states have different laws about that, so we're going to have the ability to on, off, and trickle. So the person could not take a shower, but they could get water to make a meal or take medicine or anything like that. And you would do that right from here. So you would not roll a truck out to shut meters off. You would not have people pouring bags of Sacrete into their curb boxes so you can't get at that water meter to shut it off. That's happening. Parking an RV over it, parking a camper over it. We do all kinds of things to try and save, try and not get our water shut off. But you know darn right well that the cable bill is paid, the cell phone bill is paid, and the internet service is paid. You can live without all of those for more than the 4 days that you can live without water. But those always get paid first before water does. Pressure and temperature monitoring. We talked about the Ally meter. We'll get a little bit more into that with that. Each of those Ally meters has a pressure and a temperature setting on it. Gives you the ability to do hydraulic monitoring, hydraulic modeling, and pressure modeling throughout your system. So you know where your high pressures are, where your low pressures are, if you have any temperature issues on water. I don't know why everybody wanted temperature, but everybody did want temperature. We talked a little bit about the customer portal. Cash flow to the utility for monthly billing. We did briefly touch on that before. As far as system management concerns, you know, you're going to have snapshots in all of this software, in all of these user interfaces, whoever you decide has these. So you'll be able to spot trends a little more quicker. Zone metering. We talked about, okay, out of well 1, I service this area out of town. So on well 1 on my master meter, I know I'm pulling 1.2 million a day. So give me a snapshot of all of the homes that are on zone 1, and why am I only billing them $840,000 in a 24-hour period? So now I'm able to find where my revenue is going, where my lost revenue is coming from. I'm pulling 1.2 million out of my master meter there, but I'm only billing 890,000 gallons in that 24-hour period. And our meters do have middle-of-the-minute communication, our radios have middle-of-the-minute communications. So they are synced. So if I want a reading at midnight to midnight, I can get every meter in there, do that. And it's not hard to set up, it's as easy as drop it and drag it on a map. All your meters will be plotted on a map. Make a box out of those, include all those meters in this zone, include all my other meters in this zone. So I'm able to model and to plan for the future with my system a whole lot better than I can right now.
It also helps for your annual regulatory reporting purposes. You know, if you guys are billing quarterly, I'm sure you're faced with this, trying to match up, okay, on January 1, we sold, 3 million gallons, and then on December 31st, but, you always have a moving target because you can't match everything up because you're not billing everybody at the same time. I know where I used to work, we used to come up with all these different calculations trying to match it up, but with an AMI system, you're gonna know what you sold at midnight on January 1 to December 31st, and you should be able to match that up and say, okay, we've got a 30% water loss, and quick and dirty non-revenue water calculation. So that would really help, for those purposes too.
Maryland's down at what? Maryland wants to go to what, 15% unaccounted for?
10% for population over 10,000.
And we have that case here.
Yeah.
10% is still a pretty tight system.
Yeah, 10%.
For water losses. We've seen 60s and 70s. Average is about 22%. Now, I don't know of another business in the world where I could lose 22% and get a pat on the back for it. If I was driving a truck full of tires around and delivering them and I had 100, and I told my boss, hey, I only lost 22 of those tires today, I'm guaranteed I'm in trouble. But acceptable water loss is 22%. Maryland's going down to 10. And let's face it, that water's not going anywhere. It's going back into the water table. It's going back into condensation. It's coming from precipitation. There is no more or less water than there is ever going to be. But you've treated that water, and now you're just plugging it down into a hole. Now you have to recapture it. You have to retreat it. So it's just adding to costs. Go ahead, one more. That one says, are we all the same? We are not the same. We're obviously a sales organization. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that everybody is the same. But we have some definite features which delineate us from everybody else. Number one on that is power. We transmitted 2 watts of power out of our radios. That's a lot of power. That's why it is a licensed system. All kinds of AMI vendors are going to come in and they're going to tell you that they have licensed frequencies. They do not have the primary license use. What that guarantees for your utility is, if there is interference from anybody out there, whether we own those frequencies. Census bought a company called AMDS about 10 or 12 years ago. They own the pager frequencies all over the country. Not often you go into a meeting anymore and see the people that have 2 and 3 pagers on their belts anymore. So that is distributed by the FCC. We own those frequencies. We lease those frequencies back to the utility. So you are guaranteed protected against any interference. Any interference comes, $5,200 a day, $5,300 a day on the offender to the FCC. So they'll usually get off of that pretty quick. In our bandwidth, we have different channels and broadcast variants that we can use to guarantee that your signals are coming back to you. We are not bouncing from here to there to come back. Our infrastructures our infrastructure requirements are very low. We cover you with only 2 towers. You're going to have vendors come in here that are going to say, yes, we're going to cover you with 2 towers. But you're going to need a repeater here, you're going to need a collector here, you're going to need another repeater over there. They're your responsibility as soon as those are installed, which means you have to rent the space to put that you have to rent it on a telephone pole, you have to power it, and you have to maintain it. We only have 2 collectors for you is all we have. They're at their base station. I think we get pretty good coverage with 1, but we go conservative on towers. So you will be covered by 2 towers. Network architecture, we talked about that. Your location of your infrastructure is on your utility-owned asset. So we're not putting it on a telephone pole and trying to collect 60 meters from there and then bounce it to another tower. We are real time, all the time, from the tower to the meter, from the meter to the tower. There is no mesh network, there is no frequency hopping. We are communicating directly to it. That gives us the ability to do firmware downloads when they come, to communicate to the meter itself directly. Any other software or hardware enhancements that can be given over the air to that radio that's out there itself, we talk directly to it. So we don't have to bounce anything around. So there are real differences.
Do we own that band then, or
Yes.
we're leasing that band?
Yes, you will. Right.
And from an interference, there certainly won't be any interference, but if we wanted to create our own interference,
Okay.
and when I say our own interference, if we wanted to put a camera and bounce into that signal,
Okay.
can we do that, or will it?
Okay, so we have a device called a gateway, smart gateway, which will generally interface with any device that you have that can give us a 4 to 20, or give us a pulse, or give us a contact closure of an on and off. That's automatically within our bandwidth. You'll be able to control that, you'll be able to look at the data from that. We generally use it on pressure transducers. We use it on distribution automation for valve control, pressure reducing valves. They use that for reducing and increasing. I have not had a camera yet.
Are you talking about video streaming, because we're not able to video?
No, it wouldn't be video streaming, but it would be, let's say the fact is that we wanted to do some police monitoring and an activity somewhere. Would that be video
That would be
streaming?
video streaming that we do not. We
Okay.
do not do. We can give you an on and off for a security protection. One of your well houses, you have something on there, that gate opens, sends a signal to you automatically, somebody's tampering with that. Valve control, your whole water distribution automation thing. To be completely honest with you, electric started all of this, the electric meters. So we are piggybacking off of that technology that has been developed for electric meters. Average electric meter with a radio costs $100, and it generates $100 a month in revenue. Water meter is substantially more than that with a radio, and we generate $60 a quarter. So electric develops everything, and we get it. And electric uses a whole lot more data. Even your electric companies, and we do joint water and electric. Not a whole lot in this part of the country, but we do have some of them. Even your large investor-owned utilities that originally went with power line carrier, meaning that they use their own power line to communicate back and forth, they don't have the bandwidth to do what they need to anymore. They're reverting back to radio technology. So we have a whole lot of big electrics, Duke Power, Southern Power, Pico, that are using our system every day. Pico has 4 million smart points installed already that they're reading electric meters on. And electric needs a whole lot more data. We're giving you a meter reading and a meter ID. They're resetting demands. They're taking time of use. They're doing everything and getting all of that data back seamlessly. Right. Okay, so we have a smart point and a water meter over here. Those are back here if anybody wants to see them. We have a base station. Our base station is what is at your tower itself. This unit, that's a dated picture. The unit right now is about this big by this big. You can see there's two of them in the town of Northeast. You can see we put them on a 6x6 pole. We run coax up to the top of the antenna, and there's a 6-foot whip antenna that's up there that transfers that data back and forth. And then we have the RNI, which is the head end of our software, back here. Your RNI all your data will be hosted. All of that data comes into the RNI. The RNI sort of chews all that data and gets it out to you into your user interface, which is Census Analytics, and we'll show you some screenshots through that.
Now, it's stating 13 months of, in that system. Now, do we back that up and keep it, or?
You have a rolling 13 months on your RNI account. If you want more than that, you can buy more servers and back that data up.
Currently, what's our amount of time we can go back? How many months is that?
But that's in utility bill.
Yeah, you would
I'm
have
just,
that.
utility billing stores your data forever.
Okay, very good.
So that you already have a utility bill that shows a customer's use
History.
I'm showing you meter readings and meter IDs, that's what we need. We're gonna have that, in case something catastrophic would happen, we had to backfill data, we have the ability to do that.
Gotcha.
So,
And the R&I is where your customer billing system goes out to get the readings, it brings it into so you can send bills out.
Yeah, that interface is right in Chile.
And you said Northeast has this now?
Northeast has this, yeah. Rising Sun has had it for 10 years?
It's been a while.
I was with another company when we sold that. They were one of our first. They had that ARRA money that they applied for. They only have 800 accounts. I told them I would be their fixed base reading system and stay in there with a vehicle unit and do it hourly for them and get it that way. But they had that money. They applied for it. They got it. They were on a much older system. They do not have the ability to do what you guys will have the ability to do software-wise. Next one is, okay, propagation study. We have done a propagation study for you. We take a lot into account when we do propagation studies. We assume full foliage every time we do a propagation study. We assume a lot of redundancy built into there. So you have provided us a list of all of your service addresses. We will plot that on a map. They will assign a frequency and a profile within what we have, and they will come back and they will tell us, okay, we're going to guarantee these water meters. I think we had some on there that were ungeocoded. Some addresses where you have, in your utility billing system, you don't have 122 Main Street, you have 4th and Main, 3rd and Main. It's just ungeocoded. But when we looked at that, those were within where your coverage area was. You have good height on your towers, and let's face it, the topography down here is pretty good. When we were in Ocean City, Maryland, for their propagation study, we go 11 miles into the Atlantic. The unfortunate thing is there are no water meters out there to cover, so the flatter you are, the better you are. We have places in Pennsylvania that the topography goes from here to 2,800 feet in less than a half a mile. We're able to cover those as well. So it really is a good system. The prop study up there. Okay, this is all of your meters that we were able to plot and put on a map and geocode all of them. So every one of these dots would represent a water meter. I know that's difficult to see. The next slide will show you what your coverage is for all of those. So a green is a guaranteed coverage of 98.5% reading efficiency. So we're going to guarantee you that we're going to read every water meter 98.5% of the time in any billing window, a 3 or 4 day billing window that we do. That's generally what we use for that. So 98.5%. The 1.5% that we can't guarantee are the guy that's getting new siding on his house and he's taking that house unit off and now it's laying on the ground and they don't know how to put that back together. The person that ran over their water meter is cutting their grass a little bit too short and they hit the top off of a transceiver. A wire issue. Somebody was down in their basement, they moved a box and the wire came off of the water meter. We can't account for those, so that's where our 1.5% comes in.
And that's using the Walnut Hill and the Thompson Estates water towers for that, to give you that coverage.
Yep. So next one. There's 4 components of how we work right here. We like to be up high. We don't like to be up too high, but we like to be up high. We don't like to be above 300 feet. We like to be anywhere between 70 and that 300 foot. The transmit power out of the units themselves, the radio devices that are back here, that's the key to any system that you have. Most of our competitors have their radios out there. They're operating about 50 or 60 milliwatts. That's about 4 times less power. They don't have the FCC, the licenses from the FCC to be able to broadcast at the high range of power. We just got on the bus earlier than everybody else. Your sensitivity is about -130 decibels, and your in-band noise is typically in the United States about 1 to 3 dB decibels. So we don't have a whole lot of interference, and we have none within our proprietary bandwidth. All right, go 2 ahead. We'll go right to the smart points.
Okay.
We already talked about some of it by far. Some of it so far. We transmitted 2 watts of power. The top unit there is a house unit, and I'll just sort of. So So we do this and this. This is a house unit. This would go, if you had a touchpad on the house, so that would just, this clips over the existing touchpad that's currently there. We put that on there, we activate that unit, and so you have an acknowledgement from the tower before you leave, and you can call the utility office and say, you hear 202 Main Street, and they can look on there and say, yep, already got it. This is for a meter pit. This is the only thing sticking above the meter pit. This is sitting in a hole that's drilled in there. I think you currently have your TRPL now, so it's the same hole. This goes in, your other one comes out, your button plugs into here, and you're ready to go radio. Our installation is probably about 40 seconds, 40 to 50 seconds per. If you're not changing a water meter, if you're just adding a radio. Obviously, changing a water meter is a different time period. Whether you're down a pit or whether you're down a basement, then you need appointments. This unit on the outside of the house, this unit in the water, in the top of the pit lid, I do not have to bother a customer when I have an issue of a non-reading radio, when it's outside of the home. If you're the cable guy, if you're the electric guy, and they give you the time that says we'll be there between 8 and noon, they're waiting for you with a cup of coffee. If you're the water guy, we'll be there between 1 and 1:15. At 20 after, they're already calling the office and saying, where is this guy at? So we don't want to get back into a home. It's the hardest thing to do as a water guy, ever.
Is
Cable
it a
electric, not so
recommendation
much.
to put all pits in?
No, if you've currently got an infrastructure where you got a touchpad on the outside of the house, I'm walking up here, I'm slapping that over the touchpad, I'm activating it, and I'm ready to go.
But if it's in someone's basement right now,
The water meter, they generally have a wire coming out on the outside of the house that has a touchpad.
They do.
This slaps right over that touchpad, and I'm radio read.
on the outside of the house, you're reading it, but we still have the old meter.
That's correct. If you're changing out the meter, then you have to get inside, that's correct.
You have a faulty old meter.
Then you're gonna change the meter and the radio. You're gonna change the meter and the radio if you have something that's real old, yes. Put on your iPros that you've been putting in for the last 6, 7 years, that's in there. Or if I've got a meter that's, let's say, 10 years old, and I decide not to change that, I slap that on, I'm radio read, I'm ready to go.
And the meters are programmable too, so if that meter that we're leaving in service is a 100-gallon meter, we can reprogram that meter through the touchpad down to the 1-gallon resolution read that we're gonna change over to. So that's, yeah, like Ed said, if everything, we're gonna leave that meter in service and we're just gonna add the radio module to the touchpad, there's no need for us to get inside to make any changes.
Do we know what residents currently have the iPearls? We do.
Well, even before the iPearls, what was it?
Touch read, the
That's what I was
ECR,
gonna
the
say.
ICE
So
register.
they would still work with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we know.
Any meter that's about 15 or 16 years old that you currently have in your system is able to move to radio read with just the addition of a unit. That is your decision. If I'm getting into a house and I'm changing something out and a meter's 15 years old, if I have that opportunity, I'm changing that meter at that point, just from an operational point of view. If a meter's 7 years old and I don't want to make that appointment with that person, then I'm just coming up and I'm slapping a radio read on. We can read any meter that's out there just about, unless it's older than 15, 16 years old. And then it is just not transmitting enough data out of there. So let's say you have a 7-year-old meter in the situation of an iPro, and it's currently reading in 100 gallons, like Bud had said. So now, instead of a 40-second, it's a minute and a half, because now I have to take an auto gun with me. I have to communicate with that meter, and I have to say, okay, now you're now reading in 1-gallon increments as opposed to 100-gallon increments. I do that, then I do my meter install. Now that meter is ready to go for single-gallon increments. Whether it's an iPro or whether it's an ICE register. If it's something that's 9 or 10 years old, you want to program that, you can program that as well. If it's too old, you'll know right away. So if it's too old to program, it's too old to radio read as well. So your installer will know that right away as well. Good. Everything's waterproof. There's your radio unit. The rest of this is just a pretty cover. Same as this. Submersible, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter to us. This is a house unit. This will take any ambient temperatures that we experience here, rain, hurricanes, water, you know, whatever we get now, we have no weather-related issues. Each one of these, here and here, has a sticker that I peel off here when I'm doing my install. So now you don't have to know whether he's writing an 8 or a 3 down on there. So I'm taking that sticker, I'm slapping it on the work order. Same with the water meter itself. The water meter also has a removable sticker on it too. Put that on my work order, give that in, that data comes back.
And if you're doing electronic work orders, we do have people that do that, but the programming equipment has barcode scanners right on it, so you can scan the ID numbers right.
These all have barcodes on them as well, right? If you can scan that, get it into your billing system, you're good to go.
And the endpoints have the same 20-year warranty.
That's correct. So there is some foresight here now too, because now I've got a 20-year of this, and I've got a 20-year water meter. I know I'll still be around in 20, and I'll probably still be servicing water meters in 20, the way investments have been going lately. But, you know, you don't want to get caught again. So now you want to, like, when you're putting this data in, you want to know when that meter was installed, when that radio was installed. So now I can start at year 15, year 14, and start a plan, so I'm not hit with everything all at once, again. Because let's face it, this is 20 years. The battery's going to die after the 20 years. We're not going to be able to get reads out of it. A water meter, we don't know what happens after 20 years, but you're not going to get a reading out of it. There is no Lazarus device to go out and give me the final read that's on it. If they would give us 100-year batteries, we would give them to you. The water meter would be this big, and it would cost, you know, $1,000. So it's just what they can do with the technology that's available to us. Go ahead, Flip. What was that?
Do you
By
replace
using
the
this
battery?
system though,
No,
unless you change,
no field replaceable batteries, no ma'am.
you have to change the device on the meter itself and when it shut it off.
That's correct. That would be an Ally water meter. That's a specific water meter
That's
that
what I'm
does that.
saying, this gives your radio read data, but actually you have to change the meter to an allied meter in order to be able to shut it off.
For remote shutoffs, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. That meter that's behind you, the iPearl there, that's what you're currently putting in right now. So it's iPearl technology that has a ball valve on it, so that you can shut that water, so you can do off, on, and trip. So you would not use that water meter everywhere. You might have, and I don't know how many repeat offenders you have, how many if colleges, move-ins, move-outs, things like that. Because it's going to be an expensive water meter, the Ally is. We don't have pricing on it yet, because it's still being tested. I have 2 customers test them up in PA. I'm able to get on, I'm able to shut them on, I'm able to shut them off, I'm able to look at temperature, I'm able to look at pressure. But it's not going to be a typical water meter price. It's going to be probably 3 to 3.5 times more. So you're only going to use that on a situation where it's going to be helpful to you. You're not going to put that everywhere.
When would you expect that available?
First quarter of 2017.
Yes.
From my lips to God's ears, we'll see.
Getting back to, you asked the question about the replaceable batteries. We used to have that. What happens is it's a 20-year guarantee, and that's both the battery and the electronics. So we had people that were, you know, replacing a battery maybe in year 15, and you get a brand new 20-year warranty on the battery, but you only have 5 years of warranty left on the electronics. So it was a business decision to say, look, but if that battery fails, you're going to get a whole new unit that has a brand new 20-year warranty with both the battery and the electronics. So that's really why they've gone away from the field replacement battery. What happens is, even if we did that, then if there's always firmware updates and stuff on the newer electronics, so everything will be up to date when you replace it.
The integrity of the unit comes into question as well when you have people doing field replaceable batteries. Now I've got a place for moisture to get in, a place for something else to happen, so.
Yeah, they make special gel cap sealing devices, and we have guys that use electric tape, and the next thing you know, you get moisture in there and it fails again, and you basically avoid the warranty like Ed says.
Okay, so we've gone over pretty much everything here. The one thing I wanted to stress, more than 660 utilities across the United States we're servicing now. Probably 12 to 13 within a 2-hour drive of here. I don't think there's gonna be any other vendor that's gonna be able to come in here and tell you that they've got that many systems. Or they're gonna fly you somewhere to see one test system that they have up somewhere. You wanna see our system in work, you just tell me where you wanna go, how far away you wanna go. There is one in Wanawao, Hawaii. I am not taking you to that one. Because if I ever get to see that one, I may stay. But you want to go see systems and see it in action? I mean, I can show you on my laptop right here, but I have a very bad internet connection in here. I can't get on your internal internet, and using my phone as a hotspot, I only have one bar in here. But we have screenshots of what the system actually looks like.
Well, you said Northeast has it, right?
But they're not the same software as you have. They use a software that we have called Logic. You're going to be using, we're proposing Census Analytics. We don't own Logic. It's owned by a company called Harris. Census developed it with them, so they don't have control over it. Census Analytics is the only way to go now. I would not sell Logic again, but they were 4 or 5 years ago. We didn't have Census Analytics then, we only had Logic. So it would be a completely different user interface that you were looking at. System-wise, it's the same.
Where's your closest place to Elkton that you know of that would use the same system that they are proposing for us?
On Alto, PA, they're a joint electric and water utility right outside of Chambersburg. Hollidaysburg, PA, which is up by Altoona. But I can show you the analytics system on somebody's computer that's connected to an internet connection at any time you want to see that. And I can do on-demand reads. I can look at a customer's usage. I can see what their last read is. I can show you all real-time data on that as well, remotely. Because we monitor. When you're hosted, I mean, you have a problem with a tower that's out here, and your tower's communication system goes down. I generally get an email from India or Pakistan around 3 in the morning telling me that somebody's lost communications. I do not call the customer at that point and tell them they've lost communications, because generally about 10 minutes later I get something back that says, okay, this is back up. The backhaul communication is the responsibility of the utility itself. So that is generally a Verizon wireless modem. That's what we use in most of our base stations. Transfers that data right over to you. It's all encrypted. It's all secure. We are not passing customer-specific data back and forth. We're passing a meter ID number and a meter reading. There is no customer-specific data that we're passing back and forth. Northeast use Comcast for theirs. So they have a Comcast modem out there, and they ran...
Our internet is Comcast here.
Right. So you could use them as well. If you have a Verizon wireless cell phone plan that you use for your people that are in the field or whatever, it's about $35, $40 a month. It's the cheapest data package you can have. And that goes the same for my largest customer, Altoona, which has 25,000 customers, down to my smallest one, which is probably Rising Sun, which has 800. It's not much from a data point of view that you're transferring back and forth at all. So it's a pretty cheap thing. There will be one needed at each site. So.
Ed,
Yes, sir.
I had a couple of questions, and you probably already answered.
Go ahead.
But how can we assure that we're only going to use that system and control it?
Census owns the frequencies, primary use. So any interference that will be caused, the offending party is fined, I think it's $5,200 or $5,400 a day if they're interfering on yours. The bandwidth is proprietary and it's controlled by the FCC. So people cannot get into the bandwidth on the data coming back and forth.
Now, Ed mentioned that we have Rising Sun and Northeast are also using the same system, so they're on the same frequencies. What happens is, when we submit the prop study information to Census, they actually assign you your own frequency profile and utility code, which separates you, because actually your
Prop studies.
with your proximity to both Rising Sun and Northeast, and us being able to have 7 to 10 miles of range from our towers, their meters could actually be hitting your tower, what's gonna happen is it's gonna come in and say, no, this is northeast, it's gonna ignore it, you know, it's gonna, so that's what separates you from them.
Everybody gets a frequency, everybody gets a utility
Yeah.
code. So that ensures that there is no cross connection.
Right.
And I heard you talk about 20-year
Yep.
warranty and battery issue. If I look at this like cell phones. We're using cell phones today,
Not
2 years
using
from
2
now,
years
we're
from
gonna
now.
go to the next step up now. And cell phones, I say we're sure that we have parts that interchanges with the unit that we're putting in now. And I can assure that this unit, in 20 years, we talked about, you're gonna have this used, the parts changed all of a sudden, because obviously we have to change everything around. I heard you say that this will always be used, you can't.
Can't say always, that's correct.
You can't always look into the future and say this is gonna be used in 20 years, but we don't wanna have to go around and replace everything. Why don't you include like a year, everyone automatically in the contract gets, that new battery or whatever you're talking about. I'm just saying, in the package.
Well, we have a non-conditional published 20-year warranty. So they're guaranteeing that they're making this for at least that time period. Now, we've been making these so far for about 35 years. So Census has put their eggs in the RF basket and the primary license basket frequency. Now, if you'd have told me 20 years ago that we were gonna be reading meters from a tower-based system, I'd have told you were crazy. We're still gonna be driving around, and we're still gonna be using touch reading, we're still gonna be reading counters on the wall. So evolution does happen. Census always makes everybody, since we started at day one with SR meters and Rockwell technology, when they make obsolescence, they always give the customer the option to utilize what they're already using. They will not say, okay, that's it, you're done, we're not supporting this anymore. It just does not happen.
To answer your question, you know, cell phones and PCs are a very good comparison, because by the time you buy, it's obsolete. You know, you got, you know, I have an iPhone 6, you know, iPhone 7s are out now, so with the FlexNet system and the two-way capability, it said that we can actually talk down to the meter. So, like, Rising Sun's a perfect example. They are on what we call RNI 1.x. Right now, we're up to RNI 4.1. So those are technology enhancements that have happened. Now, Rising Sun has chosen not to, you know, keep updated. But and we can do that all over the air without having somebody come to your site. With the two-way technology, we can actually update your firmware over the air. That's all the way to the endpoint. We can update firmware in the NXU, and we can also update firmware in the meter if need to be. So I hope that answers your question.
This is my last question. I can always say you won't hear from me no more. But, as a salesman and a sales pitch,
Right.
you said there's other companies that do this.
Absolutely.
What can you do to make that one little package look extra better than these other companies and be a sales tool for me to buy that thing right off the bat?
Probably the best thing is power. Number one is power of what we're broadcasting at. My competitors are gonna come in here and they're gonna tell you that they're they won't tell you that they're only broadcasting at 60 milliwatts of power. This is 2 watts of power. We're the only one that has a primary use frequency which protects you from interference from any other. Because we own the frequencies and we own primary use. They're going out there in that 902 to 928 bandwidth, which is getting more and more crowded every day. FedEx uses it for package tracking, for the scanning of everything and getting the data back. UPS, garage door openers are in that, baby monitors are in that frequency. We are a protected frequency, and we own them, which are completely controlled by the FCC. So we are guaranteeing that you do not get any interference. So the primary use, if you take 2 things away from everything that I say today, the primary use frequency and the power that this thing transmits at is what separates us from everybody else.
And the infrastructure, like you said, we're gonna be able to read your system with 2 towers. I don't think you're gonna hear from another provider that's gonna tell you that we can read your system with two towers, 2 collectors, Everybody else is probably gonna propose a mesh network where you've got to rely on, different collectors on pole tops to bounce signals back and forth back to your office. If one of those legs goes down, you can lose everything that's connected to that one collector. So, we have redundancy, we have the higher power, and, I used to work on the utility side. I think I'm not a salesman. I had 26 years in municipal government before I came home with LB, and, I can honestly tell you, there's not another system out there that's gonna be able to do what this is, and everybody's gonna tell you, we're just as good as Census, we're just as good as Census, because Census sets the standard for, metering and, meter reading systems. So, like I said, they went out and they made it, it was millions and millions of dollars to buy that company, to buy that spectrum, and nobody else has made that investment.
For that frequency band that you lease back to the town of Elkton,
Yeah.
is that bill, is that a fixed rate over the course of the life?
That cost is included in the purchase of the system.
So it's not, it doesn't matter how much data flies back and
Right.
forth, it's the
Nope,
same
nope.
cost. that- yeah.
That's why we have all the different frequency channels. So, we'll get into some other things that we're going to talk about that are not just meter reading, because it's called FlexNet, and there's a reason for it being called FlexNet, because we know we can do water, gas, and electric, but there's so many other functions that the Census is continually engineering and expanding the system, and it's really a robust. Yes.
So the last thing that I'll talk about before we get into some of the other features, why us, why Census? The one thing you'll know about LB Water is we service. We're fairly local, and that's what we provide. We provide the service. Census provides the product, they provide the infrastructure, they provide everything else, but I would love to have you call, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but if you call my customers and ask if I'm responsive to them, you will find out that I am. I may not always have the correct answer that they need at that time, but I'll know where to get it. I can go to Bud, I can go to Census, I can go to some other place and find that answer out. But I am responsive. I will find out what needs to be done and get it taken care of. And that's not just for me, that's LB Water. We have a team, LB Water sells valves, pipes, fittings, fire hydrants, everything for water, sewer, and storm. We have a dedicated meter team of 9 of us throughout our coverage area, which only work with water meters. Our competitors are going to come in here, and you're going to probably be dealing with most of it. It will be a direct relationship. The person that's going to be covering that for you covers 4 and 5 and 6 states for that meter manufacturer or reading system manufacturer. You are just not going to get the service that you deserve. When you have a problem with a system like this, you need an answer right away. When you have a problem with your billing company, you can't wait 7 hours for a phone call back. You probably do for most billing companies, it's just the way they operate, but when you're stuck doing something, you need to know to do it right away. So I get calls from mayors, I get called from field guys, I get called from utility billing people, I get called from everybody, I get called from IT, and I am not an IT guy, but everybody throughout a government or a municipality, that's who I have to deal with, and that's what I pride myself on is doing.
And see, I thought that should have been part of your answer when Commissioner Piner
That's
asked
a very
you
good point.
specifically, what is it that you are going to sell us to make us want you to be our provider?
I got you, okay.
And the important thing is the previous customers and your personnel and things should have been in that answer.
I got you. I was thinking more of from the system point of view in that, because I knew I was going to get to talk about myself later. I just didn't want to blow it at that point.
And getting back to what Ed said about our team, that's part of our agreement with Census. For us to sell their products, they required us to have this level of support. And I think if you're dealing with any of our competitors, they're not going to have this level of support. And Ed failed to mention that not only the 9 people on our team, but we have 3 full-time technical support people on staff at our corporate office who will call in you have a level of support with Census, they have an 800 number, but most of our customers call us. They're calling Ed, or they're calling Brian, Gene, or Ethan in our corporate office, because they're gonna get an answer right away. You know, we can team viewer into your PC to see what you're actually seeing, and, you know, try to troubleshoot things with you along the way. So that really goes a long way. And then we're gonna shift gears in a little bit here to talk about another ancillary piece of equipment that we can add to this system for inline link detection. And we have another whole group that's all they do, that, you know, they provide you the support and training for that too. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. Yes, sir.
You said you're an ESOP,
Yes, we are an ESOP.
so how do we know you're gonna be in business 20 years from now? And the other thing is, would you supply these people with a balance sheet so they can look at, see what financial strength you have?
Sure, we can do that. I got about 5 years left before I retire, and you know, my retirement is based on performance of the company. I can tell you that when I started with the company in 2004, the owners of the company, because we were a family-owned business, and the three owners of the company had many family members working with the company, and they were all getting up, they wanted to retire, and, you know, every day they were fielding calls from HD Supply, Ferguson, you know, all the big box water distribution companies, and they said, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure this LB water, you know, stays and continues to thrive the way it has. So that's when, in 2002, that's when they sold the company to the employees, and it's a true ESOP. The employees own 100% of the company. It's not like, you know, the previous owners maintained 51, the majority share, and then, you know, spread it out among the rest of the employees. The employees own the whole company. So, you know, regardless of who you're talking to, whether it's us, the girls that answer the phone, the drivers that make deliveries, they're all owners of the company. They have a vested interest in making sure that our company succeeds. But when we bought the company in 2002, we had 4 locations. We now have 8 locations spread across Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. We have this group that wasn't part of that, our meter team that wasn't part of that. We have a whole stormwater division called S3 that, I mean, if you're familiar with the stormwater regs that are coming, I mean, that's really a legislatively driven industry that we already have, you know, a team in place that's addressing that. So, you know, we're really poised to grow and continue to thrive for the future. So to answer your question, for us being around in 50 years, I really don't think that's a problem.
You offered to give, let these people visit and see other
Yep.
installations or whatever, but you could give them some names of people
Yep.
and other organizations
Sure.
like Altoona that they could call.
Yep.
And one of the questions they should ask is why they selected you in the first place, and then they can ask about performance.
Yep.
But you could give them that.
Yes, good.
One other thing that I don't understand yet is that you indicated that you warned for 20 years, and then after 20 years, it may fail to give the signal that will tell you what the water usage is. So is the implication there that after 20 years, you should start replacing the equipment, with new equipment?
I'd start before that.
I think Ed said by
14,
year 15, you start planning for,
And do them over time so you're not hit with everything at one time.
So do you buy this over time so that your replacement comes out over time? Or I think I understand now how you can go in and replace certain meters because you have this tower, so it beams down to wherever you want it to beam. But if the town were to decide to replace the whole town at one time, and the implication would be that in 20 years, they would have to do the same thing over again.
That's correct. But you're not gonna install 6,600 meters. It's gonna take you a time period to do that as well. I don't know what the plans are on the installation side of it, whether that's gonna be a contractor's gonna come in and install those water meters, whether the town employees are gonna do that. I can tell you if town employees are gonna do it, that it's gonna take a whole lot longer than if it's gonna have a contract come out and do that. So you gotta figure that, you know, you're probably on a 2 or 3 year window to get 6,600 meters and radios installed, just my guess. But yeah, you're absolutely correct that you're gonna have to start looking before the 20-year period comes so that I can start maintaining that system and keeping that going.
So we should build up a reserve to replace equipment over time, because we know we're gonna do it. A dollar reserve.
Yep.
Uh-huh, sure.
Part of the plan.
I understand that. Is there a this is something, is there a market for used water meters? In other words, we take water meters out, is there a place that they can be sold as used water meters?
We cannot resell water meters. People will take them for scrap value if they're the old brass kind. But you have to take that apart, you have to clean it out, you have to get only the brass for them to take it, and brass scrap now is pretty bad. Since the law has changed about the lead-free versus the leaded brass, nobody wants the leaded brass. You probably have a lot of leaded brass in your system. So that cannot be used for water meters or any other appurtenance in a water distribution system that comes in contact with potable water.
Like they say, get the lead out.
That's correct. And Maryland did it. Maryland, California was the first, and it was Maryland.
Yeah, California and Maryland are really the two.
They led that. But our water meter today is a composite material. There is no metal. I hate to use the term, but that's a throwaway meter. After 20 years, you're going to throw that, and it's going to be done. There's not going to be any scrap value left on that one.
Thank you.
If we could focus in on what we need to know in the next 10 minutes,
Okay.
then,
I'll get to
after
that.
about 90 minutes, I think we start to wear down.
Absolutely. What's that permalog screen?
So focus in on the next 10 minutes.
Okay, we talked about Allied.
Yeah, we talked about Allied. This is the meter that's going to have the road shut off, the temperature and the pressure sensor. That's what it's going to look like. I believe they changed the color now to be more that color than the blue. But that's going to be basically it. It's going to be a button up top there for reading. This is going to have everything built into it. There's going to be a valve here on the inlet side, and then there's going to be pressure and temperature sensors in there. If you go to the Omnimeter, these are just your large commercial meters. You're currently using these now. Same rating system, you're going to read them the exact same way. This is exciting for us. This is our leak detection system. It's made by a company called FCS, Fluid Conservation Systems. So these are installed on valve boxes around your city on the top of water valves, and they acoustically monitor water going through it, the sound on those pipes. So if there is a leak that triggers, it listens every night between 2 and 2:05 a.m. If it triggers a leak sound, it listens again from 3 to 3:05. If it gets it a second time, it sends you a signal automatically. This all ties into the FlexNet system, so you'll have constant monitoring on it. Some people choose to do a lift and shift. They'll go out and put 10 of them out in a section of town, listen to them for a couple of days, see what they get, take 10, take those same 10, put them in another part of town. But we have some customers that put 80 or 90 of them out in the system, and they're just listening all the time for leaks.
Was that product on the quotation?
I don't believe we have loggers on
No,
there.
we didn't.
Nope,
Okay.
nope.
That's just something that can be added to the system.
Yep. That's
Oh,
what
I mean,
was
you
talking
know,
about,
you can
being
add,
flexible.
I don't know if you own your streetlights, but you can put streetlight control on this system as well. If you are using a FlexNet system, I mean, just for meter reading, we'd rather have your SCADA system on here. We'd rather have street lighting control on here. If you own them, you have to own the lights to be able to do that. Leak detection. You have so much bandwidth and so much system capability to use that it almost seems to just, if you're just getting a meter reading once a quarter, you're just not utilizing the system like it should be. The census analytics software, these are just some screenshots of what we have. This is what a utility billing clerk would see when they went in. They could search up there by name, meter number, address, anything they want. They'll search that, they'll see the trends, they'll see the graphs. You can see it in you can see your reads, you can see your intervals. You can see it in a chart, you can see it in a graph. I can print this, I can send that to a customer. I can email that, I can send that to a customer. Any way that I want to get that data out of there, I can put that in Excel, I can put it in a PDF, I can get that to a customer and prove to them that they did use water between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. and that you're not trying to rob them every time. If I had one more, let's see what else we got. If I want to watch specific water meters, if I think somebody is tampering with their water meter, I can set up an alert to send this to, there'll be a whole listing of your users in there, and we can send that via text message or an email if some type of alarm situation would come up. Somebody cuts a wire, somebody does something like that. These are just reports that we have out there. There's many more reports. These are just some of the, similar to your auto read reports that come out right now. Consumption reports, zero consumption for the period, inactive meters that have consumption. That's a great one. You have a meter that's inactive, you still want to monitor them, you still want to make sure that they're getting nothing, they're not getting a bill, but I want to know if they're using water out of that place. So there's a squatter in there using that, there's a leak in there using that. What was the guy that was on vacation up in Monaca, he went somewhere and they had no idea that the water was leaking? 3,000 a day, 3,000 gallons a day or something like that were coming out of him. Monaca was able to call him and notify him that there was something wrong with his house. A pipe had frozen burst when he went to, in Florida? I forget where they were, but yeah. Pipe had frozen, burst, would have trashed their whole home over time. They were able to notify them that. This is called Meter Insight. Just a simple scan of the health of your system. I've got 9,994 active meters. A stale meter would be one I did not have a read for within my billing window. No read available. I got 372 of these that I can't get a read from. I would click on that number and I'd see all 372 of those. I'd get them into a spreadsheet and I'd get them to you to go out and see what's wrong with this. It'll tell you what we have, what we think is wrong with it, whether it's a cut wire, whether it's zero consumption, something like that, but that will get that out. Unknown radios, that's something I'm hearing that I know is not mine. Could be neighboring utilities, could be a wrong number. I know you don't write correctly every time and you don't type correctly every time, so that data, we want to get that coming back and forth and getting that correct.
That could be, if you have a meter installation contractor changing your meters out for you, he's doing work, he's putting meters in, you're hearing from those meters before he gets you the information back that you can change in your billing system
Because remember, the billing system houses the data. They're what providing us the data every day. So we generally do that on a sync file and every day or overnight or whatever. Any information that you've changed that day comes to us overnight and it rehashes. Just like loading up a handheld to go out to meter reading, people move in and out, account numbers change, meters change. So we build a system in there that's going to sync that data back and forth from your utility billing system. That's the alarm snapshot. I got 471 that have a meter read failure, and I had 156 leaks detected on that. Again, all of those numbers, I can click on it and get to it. I can map them. Show me the 156 leak detectors and show them on a map. That's the one screenshot we didn't have in here. On the individual, it plots, when I look at a customer, you do the map button. It's just going to put it right on a map. Go ahead. I think that's it.
So all what you just showed us here, the meter insight, alarm, that's
Yeah.
all part of the original.
That's correct. Your software is in there, everything is in there, that's correct.
This is
The only,
everything that it does.
yes, the only thing that would be different, it's not in your proposal, is if you wanted a customer portal for your own constituents or users out there. And that's a minimum, you get a minimum charge for 2,400 accounts, I think, and then each additional 1,000, there will be another charge for. I have to get that pricing squared away. Typically, on average, census has found that only about 10% of your people will sign up for that.
And there was also
And
some.
that's all managed by us. The customer gets in themselves, sets their own password, gets their own data, has to know the amount of their last bill, so it's all secure. They know the amount of their last bill and their account number. Then they'll get a user ID and a password, they can get in. So the beauty of it is when one of your utility billing people is looking at their account, there's a button on there, if the portal is activated, that says mirror the portal. So that you're looking exactly at what the customer is looking at on their screen. So you don't have different screens there, you're looking exactly what the water user would be looking at.
But if the system was good and customers trusted, I guess that portal was not necessary, but.
But it's nice, like I use it on my electric, I use it on electric.
Right.
I would say if I was a landlord and we had a lot of rentals in the town of Elkton, I would almost think that I would
Right.
want to monitor my
Right.
homes to some degree. But going back to
And that's available to be done, like we have a parent-child relationship there as well. So I'm not sure if you build landlords or you build tenants, but you can also tell it that this 102 main, he can group his own together here and have a parent-child relationship. I'm the parent, show me what my total bill is for all my properties.
I think that we need a price for that.
For the portal?
Yes.
I'll get you a price for the portal.
Looking at the, I don't really want to talk about the quotation per se here. Is this and I saw a date on here through January.
That, we have to put a
We
date
have
on
to
our
put a
quote.
date.
Our
You have to
quote
put a
says-
date.
Yeah, so that, don't,
Once we gauge a level of commitment from the town of Elkton, and I know you have other vendors that you
Yep.
want to see as well, I think that we will be able to work with
Right.
census. These are our budgetary numbers for you.
Perfect, that's what I
Yeah,
wanted
that's
to.
just-
The
that's
the
budget.
quantities,
We
the
will not-
quantities, you got a lot of line items here, and to move forward, listen, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. This is something that's very important to the town of Elkton. I think this is something we need to do. I'm
It's
on
expensive.
board, I'm on board here. It's a lot of money. When we start this project, it's not gonna be a 3-year project. It's gonna be a very orchestrated game plan to put this together.
So you're gonna bill out an install contract as well then, correct?
Probably so.
Okay.
The question I have is the inventory of the amount of product that we're looking for, is that gonna hold us up?
no, what we typically do, I mean, that's the purpose of this meeting. We lay this all out. You have to tell us how you want to go, because, like I said, you're saying, we're probably looking at 6 months to a year, and you're at.
Or sooner?
Okay. We would inventory that at our effort
Deliver as you
location.
need it. I just did one in Schuylkill County, municipal authority up in Pottsville. They were 10,000. They were meters only, they had the radios on already. So it sort of depended on the contractor's schedule of how he was doing those, because you never know how that's gonna work. So we coordinated that with the contractor. First, we started a direct shipment to Schuylkill County, and it just wasn't working. It was very small, couldn't get tractor trailers in there, so we said, okay, bring them to us, we'll deliver them to you as we need.
The software side of it.
Yes.
Have we looked to see if it's compatible with what we currently have, or is this something that we're gonna have to bring in a new system?
There's nobody I'm really not compatible for. If I see 5 customers in a day, 5 of them, there's 5 different utility billing systems out there. I'm going to St. Michael's later tonight, they're a different utility billing system. It's just a file transfer basically coming across. So the biggest hurdle that I have with utility billing systems is, who is your utility billing system?
Or it's municipal. It's very old,
Okay.
but it's currently, we talked.
It's not a DOS, or it is a DOS?
Not sure.
Is it Windows based, or is it?
No.
It's DOS.
Okay,
You go into DOS,
that ain't
okay.
gonna work then.
So it's not gonna be seamless, but as long as they can get me a file at, I mean, if you're going to auto read.
We're using on every.
You're using auto read with
Right.
it, we can use this to it, because all I need is a file of data coming over, giving me the
Should we
customer
go to a
information.
window-based system?
Well, then that's all new, that's a new project itself, to do the whole account.
Do they do is it an enterprise? Do they do everything they do, or is it just utility billing?
No, they do everything.
They do everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm glad this topic's come up because
So that's enterprise software then.
based on local case studies, the one main lesson learned that I've heard, not for your system specifically, but smart meters in general, is exactly what the mayor brought up. Your presentation mentioned an interface between the smart meter system and the billing system. We want to make sure when we're moving forward that that has been discussed and fully vetted out before we really get started here, because the one sad story I've heard recently over and over again is the smart meter system set up, and then they left, and now my billing system and my smart meter system aren't talking to each other, and actual custom built IT contracts come in later to fix that glitch, so we just gotta make sure that doesn't happen.
We do the interface.
Yeah, we
That's
do the
all part of
integration.
the-
Great.
I mean,
That's
we'll
fantastic.
be in contact with the
yeah.
utility billing company.
We do the integration, I do the system integration, so I'm in contact with that utility billing system. They'll send me test files, I'll test it, if it doesn't work, I'll kick it back. So
And we usually advise clients that if they're gonna do a utility billing upgrade, you do it either before or after
Or
you
after.
do the meter change out, because if you do them concurrently, you're asking for, disaster.
Yeah, it's basically just a file transfer, like, you have to think of it, you're not loading handhelds anymore. You're loading census analytics, which is just a utility, a graphical user interface. That, you're just gonna have access to that. So that file transfer is still gonna take place. In auto read, we only do it when we're going out to read meters. You go in, you get a file from there, you create that file, you get it into the handheld. But now, we want that happening on a nightly basis, hourly basis, however, we're looking for it every 35 to 40 seconds. Census Analytics is looking for a new file from you that you posted up there. So it's just more data transfer, that's all. It's just a more frequent.
But it wouldn't be transferring to your billing system at all.
Only when you're billing, that's
Only
correct.
when we-
Yeah,
So,
when you ask for it.
but your data, your data on the front end of it, like the load data portion of auto read, we want that to happen every day because you're gonna be updating things. An installation contractor's gonna come in with a stack of things like this. Now, the recommendation would be, when you bid out an installation contract, do that separate from a meter contract, so you have control. Your installation contractor, you're gonna want him to be able to provide you that data electronically, so that can be automatically imported right into your billing system. We've done numerous installation bids.
Wouldn't, could we have a system over here, continue to do what we're doing now?
Yes.
Start to enter in all the addresses and the information over here, and then when we go start putting the meters in, could we have this separate system that's ready to fly, or am I missing something?
Anytime I put this radio in, it's coming into the tower. So I don't have to physically read that meter anymore. So you still have the ability to do both all three, manual, touch read, and radio read meters with this system. And you have the choice of putting your infrastructure up first or your meters out first. I'd prefer to have the infrastructure up first so that then you have a visual notification of every meter that I get that I can hear it right away.
To answer your question, I would think if you were just looking at strictly a utility billing software upgrade, yes. But if it's a complete enterprise software system, that's not gonna work. 'Cause
Right.
that's gonna affect everything else.
Do we need, can we do utility billing separately than this?
Well, then it does an interface with our TL or anything.
You got ledger issues, you got.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's similar, you would have an interface with the meter reading system, and then you would need another interface
Okay.
with the general ledger, so.
And I have a
And we
whole
have
bunch
people
of
that do
customers-
that, I mean, we have customers that do that.
I have a whole bunch of customers that do not have enterprise. Most, I would say 90% do not have enterprise. They have a utility billing system, and then they have something else like a Penimation or something that does the
So
rest.
you said we have enterprise now? So that's what we have?
So that's the one that does everything. They're doing your payrolls, they're doing your tax, they're doing your
Payrolls,
water and sewer
general-
bill.
Yeah.
What's that?
It does our AP and they don't, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay.
All that.
You have your police software tied into that, and typically, when we have customers, they have, Parks and Recreations, police, Public Works, all their different divisions are tied into that enterprise.
Does the board have any other additional questions for the folks that gave the presentation?
Because I'll go out and get an antenna and start installing it this afternoon.
I hear you.
I'm not gonna say it's so
Does
much
anyone
later.
have anything in the audience that want to add? Lou, is there anything else you need to bring up? Listen, we really appreciate you coming
Thank you.
today,
Thanks
and
for
it
your
was
time.
very informative.
I'm gonna leave my cards here, so technical question side, you can get a hold of David, you can get a hold of me. Anytime you wanna call, I don't not answer my phone unless I'm in a deer stand in the woods.
Lou, just for to educate me a little bit on this process, we are looking at other vendors also for this. Does this have to go out on bid? I think you're the only LB water guy. I mean, it's a kind of a franchise.
We'd have to do it like an RFQ or an RFP, so you can evaluate the systems that you're looking at. Generally, what most people do in that situation is they're gonna assign grades for different things. Grades for experience, grades for strength of system, grades for price. Because I will tell you right up front that we will not be your low-cost upfront provider. We will be your low-cost provider over the life of the system, but we will not be the cheapest on a bid situation that's coming out.
Understand.
So on a straight municipal bid, we're just, it's the difference between Some people buy Hyundais, some people buy Chevys, some people buy Lincolns. It's
So
similar to
listen,
that,
we're looking,
but we do work.
quite frankly, I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna look for Ryan's expertise, Dan and Mark's, and collectively staff with Louis leading the charge here, and Steve and Beth working on it, and whatever they tell us we're going with. I think that they know our direction. I think the board collectively feels, do we feel this is the way we wanna go? Do you feel that way?
I like what they have to offer.
Yeah, I think our vision is this is the way we need to go.
You don't have a system in Maryland that I'm aware of, like, do we talk about this? I have something for, like, we have a system in Pennsylvania called CoStars. So it's a cooperative purchasing for just municipalities. We have to put our pricing for every product that we have that we make available for CoStars up there on there. We have to have a list price on there, but it's still negotiable. And I don't want to use the term circumvent, but it doesn't force you to go to a low bid situation. I don't know if there's anything like that in Maryland or not.
Well, very good. Well, listen, this meeting is adjourned, and listen, anyone want a slice of pizza? You're welcome to a slice of pizza here today.